everyone, and welcome to Commercials in Comics, a new segment I'm going to do here on the channel where we're going to take a look at print ads in comic books. This is something that I've been thinking about doing for a very long time because I think print ads are sometimes really interesting in the way that they attempt to sell you things versus the way that filmed commercials do. And I also think it's interesting to go back in the past and see what was being sold and how it was being sold, and sometimes it's a really neat blast for the past for me to go back to comics of my childhood and even before that and find out what kinds of things were going on and being sold that maybe I don't even know about and didn't realize. And I guarantee you that the one that we're going to look at today, the comic that we're gonna look at today, has ads that for things that I didn't know existed and while I was in junior high. So comics are really unique because they are because they're a narrative-driven medium for the most part, but are printed as magazines. So they kind of get you twice, sort of like Hulu, unless you pay for the non-ad version, which is a thing that they do now. But where they make their money by putting ads in the comics and interrupting your flow of reading, but also of course they charge you for the comics too, so they hit you twice. And that's the magazine model, and a lot of why they can get away with that is that comics are technically magazines. And while it can sometimes be irritating to have that progression of narrative interrupted with ads, sometimes it's also kind of fun to see what's being advertised. And sometimes I do find out about things that I didn't know about otherwise, and it's kind of nice to have those there. So anyway, without further ado, today we're gonna take a look at the ads in, not the book itself, but the ads in a book that I just reviewed. This is Powerpuff Girls number 5. I just gave this a glowing review on the Comic Vault, and there were a lot of really interesting ads in this that I wanted to look at. And I, of course, didn't want to talk a bunch about ads while I was reviewing the comic, so I thought I've been thinking about doing this show for a long time, and I don't know how often I'm going to put these out, but every now and again, when I find a comic with interesting ads, I'll do the show, and I might sometimes even pick a random comic from the Comic Vault. You can't see down here, but I have more long boxes in front of me. I might just pull, a random comic out of the Comic Vault. What is this? X-Force number 58 from the mid-90s, and just pop it open and see what ads are in it, and talk about them here on the spot with no prior planning or anything. But today I'm going to look at some ads that I have looked at a little bit briefly, and we'll just go through each of these. So when you pop it open, there's an ad for Tiny Toon Adventures Toonenstein Dare to Scare, which on the PlayStation, and I've never heard of that game. I played a couple of different Tiny Toon Adventures games growing up. There was the there was Buster Bust Loose, and there was I guess there were a couple 16-bit ones that I played, and then the Buster one I liked a lot. It was kind of a Mario 3 clone, but it was decent. And then there was one that was sort of like a collection of mini games set at a carnival on the NES that I liked a lot too. But this Dare to Scare game, I've never heard of this. It says Dare to Scare is a wacky new kids adventure game based on the Emmy Award-winning Tiny Toon Adventures. Tiny Toons was a wonderful show. I need to get that on DVD at some point. I missed that a lot. It'd be fun to maybe do some kind of video on that down the road too. Trapped inside Baroness Toonenstein's Elmira's mansion, naturally, Furball with Panicky Pals Plucky and Hamilton must avoid getting their brains swapped with Elmira's cuddly creation, because we don't want it to be the episode of The Tick where that happened, the Tick versus Science, because somebody could get their mind in a zebra, and nobody wants that to happen. In this haunted hide and seek, the only chance of escape is to redirect the mansion's creepy power and stop Elmira in her monstrous machinations. And it says that this is easy to play for younger kids, and that synopsis sure makes it sound like a little kid game. It's really interesting. I've never heard of that before. Moving forward, we have an ad for Pokemon Yellow, which is absolutely hilarious because at first, and I'm sure this is intended, when I first glanced at it, I thought it was a movie poster, and it looks like Pikachu is like the Karate Kid. and is going to be taught by Ash, by his Mr. Miyagi. Maybe that's exactly what it's intending to be. That started as a joke, and I think that's exactly what it is. Dan told me the other day, and I didn't know this, that apparently Pokemon is Nintendo's like best-selling franchise across the board. Like, they sell insane amounts of the handheld Pokemon games. I didn't know that. I remember Pokemon Yellow being absurdly popular right then. Oh, I remember this show. Here's Donkey Kong Country Legends of the Crystal Coconut, a VHS tape with a couple episodes of the short-lived Donkey Kong Country animated show. That was as you can tell looking at this ad, it was a 3D rendered show, and that was right around the same time as other 3D shows, like I guess Reboot was before that. Maybe was like just coming to a close or about to come back. I forget, because it was off for a while and then came back. But you had the thing I remember around this time was Beast Wars, which I remember liking a lot of the time. And the couple times I've looked at it briefly, so I haven't sat through a whole episode, but looked at it briefly since then. The animation doesn't hold up nearly as well as I remember it, and when you look at this, you can tell that we have come a long way. Look at Diddy Kong's face. They look like they're not done. It just looks like the animation is unfinished. Also, really dates this ad that it's Super Kmart and Big Kmart. Kmart is almost completely gone the way of the dinosaurs, or at least I think there are still a few around, but I know that they were in really dire straits when we hit the recession, and we had a Big Kmart just up the street from me, where I live now, that was actually a decent store, and unfortunately went out and nothing has taken its place with this giant parking lot with this huge building, and that's nothing's taken over. Oh boy, I hate that. There was a Halloween store in it last year. And then here's an ad for Fox Kids shows, Big Guy and Rusty. Wow, do some of you remember that show? I remember seeing commercials for it, but I never watched it. And Digimon, so this is when both of these shows were brand new. That's crazy. Digimon, that went on forever. And I remember watching an episode or two of that and thinking it was okay. It felt like a Pokemon ripoff, obviously, but I gotta be careful because maybe it wasn't at all. I have no idea. You know what came. Well, I mean, obviously Pokemon came first, but you know, anyway, I don't like to talk about anime or anime derived things because I know nothing and I have no idea what I'm talking about. Somebody's gonna be like, no, it's not a Pokemon ripoff, and I did. But anyway, but I remember both of those shows. But like I said, Digimon I actually watched, once or twice here and there. There was apparently a Catwoman game for Game Boy Color, and once again, this is the year 2000, so we're talking 4 years before the Catwoman movie came out. So this would have been obviously, as you can tell looking at it, a Catwoman game based on the comics and in the old purple suit. That's neat, and I wonder what it's like. I am starting to build a collection of superhero video games, like just getting started, like I'm doing with superhero movies and comic book derived movies. And video games, I think, are going to be harder and will get more expensive on me. But I'm slowly building that, and that means this is a game I'll have to get at some point. And I don't have a Game Boy Color, so I'll have to get one. I guess the system right after it was backwards compatible to that, so that's probably what I would need to get. But I didn't get into the handheld game until DS, I reviewed, I think, a Game Boy Color game, the Spawn game for Spawn Year, but I borrowed that system from Vince. It might just be the perfect action game. That's predictable. As Catwoman, the best cat burglar in the world, you'll move through tight... Because we need to explain to people what Catwoman is. You'll move through tight spots and encounter challenging environments. No one's going to buy this unless they already know what Catwoman is. Feline strength, furtive movements. Furtive, okay. You'll have to rely on all your cat-like qualities to stay out of harm's way. An agile leap here, a lightning-fast flip there. You have all the right moves, and this game has enough excitement to last a lifetime. Make that 9 lifetimes. Boy, I bet that game is really super short, or you wouldn't actually want to play it that long. But that's not fair. Maybe it's good. Who knows? But yeah, enough excitement to last a lifetime. Boy, you got to be careful saying that kind of thing in a little side scroller for a Game Boy Color. And speaking of Game Boy Color, may the force be with you. Do we capitalize force? Is that like is that a proper noun where we capitalize it, like Midwest or really? Okay. Anyway, so here is okay. This is an ad for Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, which was on the handheld. I didn't know that. The Episode 1 Racer, which I always wondered why it wasn't called Pod Racer, that would, or Pod Racing or something. But yeah, it was just Episode 1 Racer. It was actually a really cool game, and as much as I don't love Phantom Menace, I always loved the aesthetic of Phantom Menace, and I've got that for the Dreamcast, and I think it was also on PlayStation, and might have even been another system. I think 64 it was on too, because I think that's where I played it first. But boy, I love that game. It's a lot of fun. Tracks are a little long, but I think that's a neat game. But anyway, there was a version of that on the Game Boy Color. I think it's really odd that this ad is advertising, like it's showing Anakin Skywalker with his helmet on, but it doesn't tell you, except for in fine print at the bottom, what the actual game is. Maybe Episode 1 was such a big deal right then. I mean, the advertising for that was everywhere. We just experienced it again with Force Awakens, but I mean, like 99, it was just insane. And it might be one of those Batman things where you just look at it like, oh, it's Star Wars, and you say no more. I'll just go rush out to the store and get the Star Wars game. I don't even need to know anything about it, what it's called, anything. But that is an odd print ad. Now that Star Wars Episode 1 Racer is out for Game Boy Color, the Force can be with you at all times. Capitalizing Force, wherever you go, whatever you do, you're ready to race. A true credit to the Force. I don't know. That's odd. That's odd copy, I think. Mobile Suit Gundam, a toy sold at Toys R Us. Gundam Wing. Never saw any Gundam. But those toys always looked like fun, because obviously, some of those giant mech things like a Megazord, and those always looked like fun. Oh, look, a print ad that you have to flip sideways. So you want to be Tarzan? I don't know, not particularly. Here's a 2-page Tarzan ad. So many video games, and so many PlayStation games. Tarzan. Then you'll love Tarzan on PlayStation. Well, naturally. You want to be Tarzan. Outrun wild animals, surf on trees, and go one-on-one with a deadly hunter. That sounds riveting. Disney Interactive. Yeah, you really didn't need to go that far and have a giant... Okay, I'm always bad with my big cats. Is that a cheetah? I think that's a cheetah. Somebody's going to be like, no, it's not, and then I'm going to feel like an idiot. We've got so much cool stuff, we need a planet to hold it all. Nextplanetover.com. I bet that's not still around. I'm going to look that up and see if that's still around. Let's see, what else? Man, so many ads in this. Honestly, I don't see nearly this many ads these days in comics. Honestly, I thought this was going to be like a 3-4 minute video. But more ads, so we're going to look at them. A lot of stuff for South Peak Interactive. I bet that's not a company that's around anymore. It's all fun and games until somebody gets splatted. Animaniacs Splatball. Animaniacs, of course, you're just like... Tiny Toons was a show that I watched some, although I watched a lot more Tiny Toons, and I was a lot more interested in the spin-off, Pinky and the Brain. But there's another game that I never heard about. And I played the Animaniacs 2D side-scroller, the 16-bit game. For Super Nintendo, but I didn't know about this. PC Arcade Paintball. Yeah, okay. Never heard of that. This is another one that I've never heard of from South Peak Entertainment, or Interactive, excuse me. The Flintstones Bedrock Bowling. I guess it's a bowling game with, well, that's appropriate, because, you know, Fred Flintstone was always bowling. Another PlayStation game, and from Cartoon Network, apparently. What else? What else? Not interrupting the last few pages of this really fun, wonderful comic. Man at Tomorrow, City of Tomorrow, Superman, an 80-page special by Kelly Geist and Conrad. I remember seeing this ad a few times, and this was that abysmal... Was it Jeff Loeb, or is I'm going to get into trouble? But I remember this design of the Superman that always has his eyes closed, and I'm trying to remember... World something that just everybody absolutely hated, and I've got the big thick omnibus version of that for some reason. I think I found it cheap somewhere. I've never read through it, but people absolutely hated that. And then I can't remember what that's called. And then here's another South Peak. Wow, they spent a fortune to get ads in the DC Kids books. I don't know, for some reason it's more fun for me sometimes to go through the kids ads. The adventure game turns their PC into a mystery machine. You know, but not literally, because everyone would rush out and buy that. Scooby-Doo Mystery of the Fun Park Phantom, and that's a PC game. Never heard of that either. Wow. And then on the back, Color a Furby. And then get a Furby coloring thing inside specially marked boxes of cereals. Yeah. So anyway, wow, just an eclectic assortment of ads, but mostly for video games, and a lot of stuff based on old cartoons, and well, at the time, not old, but although I don't think Tiny Toons was still on in 2000, was it? But anyway, a bunch of stuff based on big properties that I've games that I've never heard of. Really interesting, but of course, it makes a lot of sense that you'd be trying to sell that stuff in a kids comic. So anyway, that's the show. Just me going through print ads and showing you crazy, interesting, old, and sometimes we might use some new ones, print ads. I think next time I'm going to sit here and just pull a random comic out from right in front of me and go through the print ads and see what's in there, and we can learn about advertising together. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Captain Logan, and as always, happy reading.